At this very moment, as you read these lines, you are taking your 847th breath of the day. Tomorrow you will take approximately 23,000 more breaths. And here is what the HeartMath Institute discovered that changes absolutely everything. 99% of these breaths happen in complete unconsciousness. Think about it. You breathe while drinking your morning coffee, scrolling through emails, sitting in traffic, lying awake at 3 a.m. with racing thoughts. Each breath was broadcasting an energetic signature to everyone within a radius of about 2.5 meters. And you had no idea what message you were sending. This is precisely why your personal growth efforts constantly hit a wall. You are trying to manifest abundance while your breathing patterns reflect scarcity. You affirm self-confidence while your nervous system broadcasts anxiety through shallow, constricted breathing. Most people spend decades rearranging their external circumstances, a new job, new relationships, a new city, while completely ignoring the internal energetic broadcast they transmit 23,000 times a day. Your breathing patterns are literally encoding information into the quantum field with every inhale and exhale. What if there were an ancient technique that transforms this unconscious process into conscious reality creation? Now that you understand how unconscious breathing patterns have kept you trapped in reality loops, let's explore something that will fundamentally change your perception of the relationship between your breath and the world around you. What I am about to share is not mystical speculation. It is cutting-edge science that validates what ancient traditions have known for millennia. Every single cell in your body is literally emitting light right now. This is not a metaphor. Dr. Fritz Albert Popp, a German biophysicist, spent decades documenting what he called biophotons. These are actual photons of light streaming from living cells at a rate of hundreds to thousands per second per square centimeter of your body. But here is where it gets fascinating. When your cells are in harmony, this light emission becomes coherent, organized, almost laser-like in its precision. When your cells are in disharmony, stressed, diseased, or chaotic, the light becomes scattered, incoherent, and random. Your breath is the conductor of this cellular orchestra of light. Think about this for a moment. Ancient traditions spoke of breathing the light body into existence, and we dismissed it as poetic language. Yet here is modern quantum physics proving that your breathing patterns directly influence the coherence of the light emitted from every cell in your body. When you breathe in anxiety, with short, shallow, erratic breaths, you are literally conducting chaos at the cellular level. The biophotons streaming from your body become scattered and incoherent, broadcasting disharmony into the quantum field around you. But when you breathe with intention, with what the Hermetic texts call the observer's breath, something remarkable happens. The light emissions from your cells begin to synchronize, creating what physicists call coherent field effects. You are not just breathing air, you are organizing light itself. The quantum field does not distinguish between what is happening inside your body and what is happening in your external circumstances. It responds only to information. And the most consistent information you broadcast comes through your breathing patterns. Every inhale and exhale generates electromagnetic fields that extend far beyond your physical body, writing instructions onto the very fabric of reality. This is why traditional manifestation techniques like affirmations and vision boards fail for most people. You can repeat positive statements all day long, but if your unconscious breathing pattern is encoding anxiety, limitation, or fear into the quantum field, that is the reality you will continue to experience. The field responds to the energetic signature of your breath, not the words you speak or the images you visualize. Let me give you a specific example. When someone experiences chronic anxiety, their breathing becomes shallow and irregular, typically 20 to 25 breaths per minute instead of the optimal 6 to 8. This breathing pattern creates what researchers call cardiac chaos, irregular heart rate variability that generates incoherent electromagnetic fields. These fields extend several feet from your body, literally writing anxiety patterns into the space around you. The quantum field receives this information and mirrors it back as anxious circumstances, difficult relationships, and chaotic situations. Now consider the opposite scenario. When someone breathes in the pattern we will explore as the observer pattern, slow, deep, rhythmic breaths with specific ratios, their heart rate variability becomes coherent. The electromagnetic field generated by their heart and cellular activity becomes organized, powerful, and constructive. They are literally writing peace, clarity, and harmony into the quantum field with each breath cycle. The electromagnetic emissions occurring during these different breathing states are far below conscious detection, but their effects are measurable and profound. HeartMath Institute researchers have documented how coherent breathing patterns influence not only the person breathing but also people in their immediate vicinity. The quantum field does not recognize boundaries between individuals. It responds to the dominant energetic patterns being broadcast. This explains why you can walk into a room and immediately sense tension or peace even without seeing anyone's face or hearing a single word. You are detecting the coherent or incoherent electromagnetic signatures being written into the field through breathing patterns. Some people's breathing literally constructs harmony in their environment, while others unconsciously demolish it with every chaotic breath cycle. Ancient Egyptian texts describe Thoth as the scribe of reality, writing the laws of existence with divine breath. Modern quantum physics reveals this was not mythology. It was precise instruction. You are constantly scribing reality with your breathing patterns, encoding information that the quantum field reflects back as your lived experience. The most advanced quantum breathing techniques are a subject of deep study, but their foundational principles can be mastered to understand these universal laws. What makes this even more profound is the understanding that the quantum field operates on pure information, not physical matter. Your breathing patterns are information carriers, broadcasting specific frequencies that instruct reality on how to organize itself around you. When you breathe unconsciously, you are sending random, often contradictory signals. When you breathe with the precision we will explore in the observer's breath method, you become a conscious architect of your reality. The four-stage observer's breath technique works by creating specific electromagnetic signatures that encode coherent information into the quantum field. Each stage corresponds to different aspects of reality construction, from dissolving limiting patterns to encoding new possibilities and anchoring desired outcomes in physical experience. But first, you need to understand the quantum gap, that moment between breaths where infinite possibilities exist, where the field is most receptive to new information, where true transformation occurs. This gap is not empty space, it is pregnant with potential, waiting for conscious direction. Your cells are broadcasting light, your heart is generating electromagnetic fields, and your breath is conducting this entire symphony of energy into patterns that become your reality. The question is not whether this is happening. Science confirms it every moment. The question is whether you will continue to broadcast unconsciously, or if you are ready to become a master of the observer's breath. Think about it for a moment. What was the very first thing you did when you entered this physical realm? Not your first thought, not your first word, not even your first cry. It was your first breath. That initial instinctive draw of air marked the moment your consciousness anchored itself in matter. Before your mind could form a single concept, before language could shape your reality, your soul announced its arrival through the elegant simplicity of rhythmic breathing. This is not a poetic metaphor. It is a profound truth that most of us have completely forgotten. We have been conditioned to believe that consciousness originates in the mind, that thoughts create reality, that mental processes drive our experience. But consciousness did not enter through your brain. It entered through your breath. That first inhalation was your spirit claiming residence in physical form, establishing the sacred rhythm that would either nourish your soul or merely sustain your survival. And here's what nobody talks about. There is a massive difference between these two types of breathing. Right now, as you listen to this, pay attention to how you are breathing. Don't change it. Just observe. Are you breathing rapidly or slowly? Is your breath shallow, concentrated in your upper chest, or does it flow deep into your belly? Are you holding tension in your shoulders, your jaw, your throat? Most people discover their breathing is in what I call automated mode. Quick, shallow breaths that barely expand the rib cage. This is not breathing. It is biological maintenance. Your body is doing just enough to keep the machine running while your spirit slowly starves. This automated breathing keeps you locked in survival consciousness. When you breathe rapidly and shallowly, you are sending a constant signal to your nervous system that danger is nearby. Your body remains in a subtle state of fight or flight. Your mind stays hypervigilant, and your energy gets trapped in the lower survival centers instead of flowing into the higher chambers of consciousness where transformation actually happens. But here's what changes everything. Ancient wisdom traditions understood that breath was never just about oxygen exchange. They recognized it as the sacred bridge between the visible and invisible realms, between dense matter and quantum potential, between human limitation and divine consciousness. In Sanskrit, it was called prana, not just breath, but life force itself. The ancient yogis did not see breathing as a mechanical process happening in the lungs. They understood it as the circulation of consciousness through existence itself. Every inhalation drew in cosmic energy. Every exhalation released limiting patterns and stagnant consciousness. The Hebrew tradition spoke of ruach, the breath of life that God breathed into Adam. But ruach means more than breath. It means spirit, wind, the moving force of divine consciousness. They understood that conscious breathing literally moves the spirit through different dimensions of reality. The Egyptian mystery schools took this understanding even further. They taught that every breath could activate distinct chambers of consciousness within the human energy system. Different breathing patterns open different doorways of perception. They knew that when you change your breathing, you are not just altering your physiology. You are restructuring the very foundation of reality. These were not primitive peoples clinging to superstitious beliefs. These were sophisticated civilizations that understood something we have forgotten. That breath is the technology through which consciousness shapes physical experience. When you examine the quantum field research we explored earlier, this ancient wisdom suddenly makes perfect sense. If every cell in your body is emitting coherent light patterns that encode information into the field, then your breathing rhythm is literally programming reality at the quantum level. The ancient masters intuited what modern science is now proving, but we have lost this knowledge. Modern life has reduced breathing to an unconscious biological function. We breathe just enough to survive, but not enough to truly live. We have forgotten that conscious breathing is an active collaboration with the creative forces of existence. Here is the crucial distinction. Automated breathing happens to you, while conscious breathing flows through you as an active participant. One maintains your prison, the other designs your freedom. Every emotion you experience, every choice you make, every moment of clarity or confusion directly correlates with specific breathing rhythms. When anxiety grips you, notice how your breath becomes rapid and shallow, trapped in your upper chest. When peace settles over you, observe how your breathing naturally deepens and slows, flowing into your belly like gentle waves. This is not a coincidence. Your breathing patterns and your states of consciousness are intimately connected. Change one, and you automatically transform the other. The ancient masters understood this relationship so deeply that they developed precise breathing techniques to access specific states of consciousness, to heal particular ailments, to manifest desired outcomes in the physical world. When you breathe with presence and reverence, a profound shift occurs. You stop being a passive receiver of whatever reality throws at you and become an active collaborator in designing your experience. Your breath becomes a sacred tool for maintaining alignment with your highest potential, rather than just sustaining biological life. This is where breathing transcends the physical and becomes truly sacred. It is no longer about moving oxygen through your respiratory system. It is about circulating divine consciousness through the quantum field of infinite possibility. The question is not whether you are breathing. The question is whether you are breathing consciously enough to remember who you really are and what you are truly capable of creating. Your forgotten birthright is not just the ability to breathe, but the knowledge that every breath is an opportunity to reshape reality from the inside out. The ancient masters knew this. The mystery schools taught this. And now it is time for you to reclaim this fundamental truth and begin breathing your way into the reality you were always meant to experience. Here is something that might shock you. You do not actually control your thoughts. Right now, as you are taking in these words, there is probably a voice in your head commenting on what you are reading. Maybe it is agreeing. Maybe it is skeptical. Maybe it is planning what you need to do later today. That voice feels like you, doesn't it? Most people spend their entire lives believing they are that mental commentary. But what if I told you that voice is actually your prison warden and you have been mistaking it for yourself? Let's do something together right now. Don't change anything about your breathing, just notice it. Feel the air flowing through your nostrils. Notice how your lungs expand naturally. Then gently release. You don't have to make it happen. It is already happening. Your body has been breathing for you since that very first moment you entered this physical realm, just as we explored in the ancient wisdom traditions. Now here is where it gets interesting. As you observe your breath, notice what your mind is doing. Is it commenting? Maybe saying something like, "This seems pointless," or "I'm not doing this right," or "When will we get to the good part?" Those thoughts are arising, aren't they? You can perceive them forming, lingering for a moment, and then dissolving away. Here is the revelation that changes everything. If you can observe those thoughts, if you can watch them appear and disappear like clouds across the sky, then you cannot be those thoughts. You are the awareness that perceives them. This is your first glimpse of the observer, the part of you that exists beyond all the mental chatter. Think of it like sitting by a river. The water flows past constantly, sometimes rushing, sometimes calm, carrying all sorts of debris and reflections. Your thoughts are like that water flowing past in an endless stream. But you are not the river. You are sitting on the riverbank watching everything pass by. You remain still and present while the river of thoughts continues its eternal flow. Ancient traditions have pointed to this recognition for thousands of years, though they have used different names. In Hindu philosophy, they call it Sakshi, the witness consciousness that observes all experiences without being touched by them. Buddhist teachings speak of Buddha nature, the unchanging awareness that perceives the constant flux of mental formations. Even in Christian mysticism, they reference the Christ consciousness within, that divine awareness that exists beyond the personality's endless concerns and commentaries. They are all pointing to the same fundamental truth. You are not your temporary experiences. You are the eternal awareness experiencing them. This observer consciousness has been with you since childhood. Remember being 5 years old, looking out at the world with wonder. The same awareness that was present then is present now. Reading these words, it hasn't aged a day. It hasn't been damaged by your experiences or changed by your circumstances. While your body has grown, your personality has developed, and your mind has accumulated knowledge. This observer remains exactly the same. And here is what most people never realize. This observer is not just passively watching your thoughts and emotions. It is actually the creative force behind your reality. When you are identified with your thoughts, believing you are the mental commentary, you approach life from a problem-solving mindset. How can I fix this situation? How can I get what I want? How can I avoid what I don't want? You are operating from the assumption that you are a separate individual struggling against external circumstances. But when you shift into observer consciousness, everything changes. Instead of asking, how can I fix this problem? You begin asking, what is this experience showing me? You recognize that your external reality is reflecting your internal state back to you. Just as we explored how breathing patterns encode information into the quantum field itself. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research has demonstrated something remarkable about this shift in awareness. When people spend just 7 minutes in conscious observation, truly witnessing their thoughts and emotions without trying to change them, they can begin to rewire neural patterns that have been operating for decades. The brain literally starts forming new connections, breaking free from the automatic programs that have been running their lives. But this goes far deeper than neuroscience can measure. When you awaken as the observer, you start remembering your true role in this cosmic dance. You are not just an actor stumbling through a script someone else wrote. You are simultaneously the director, the writer, and the audience of your own experience. Think about it like this. The sky does not resist the clouds that pass through it. Storm clouds, gentle wisps, dramatic sunsets. The sky remains vast and undisturbed regardless of what weather patterns move across its expanse. Your thoughts and emotions are like those clouds, and you are like the sky itself. No matter how intense the mental weather becomes, your essential nature remains unchanged. This is why the observer state is so powerful for transformation. When you are identified with your thoughts, you are caught up in the drama of the clouds. This thought is good. That emotion is bad. I need to get rid of this feeling. I need more of that experience. But when you recognize yourself as the sky, you can allow all experiences to arise and pass away naturally, without resistance. The observer does not judge what it perceives. It does not try to fix or change anything. It simply witnesses with compassionate awareness. And in that witnessing, transformation happens automatically. It is like how your breath responds to the quantum field, not through force or effort, but through alignment with the natural intelligence that is already operating. Most people live their entire lives without discovering this observer consciousness. They remain identified with the river of thoughts, believing they are their worries, their desires, their memories, their plans. They experience themselves as victims of their own mental activity, constantly trying to manage and control the endless stream of internal commentary. But you have the opportunity right now to step back onto the riverbank, to remember that you are the awareness in which all experiences arise and dissolve. This is not just a philosophical concept or a spiritual belief. It is your actual lived reality. The observer is who you really are, and it has been patiently waiting for you to remember. As you continue to watch your breath, let yourself settle into this recognition. You are not the one breathing. You are the consciousness witnessing breath happening through you. This simple shift in perspective is the doorway to everything that follows, the foundation for transforming your reality from within. Have you ever noticed how time seems to stretch during a car accident? Those few seconds before impact feel like minutes. Every detail is crystal clear, your mind processing information at impossible speeds. Or perhaps you have experienced those intimate moments with a lover where time dissolves entirely. Hours pass like minutes, yet each heartbeat feels eternal. These are not romantic fantasies or tricks of memory. You have actually touched something profound. The quantum gap between moments where reality becomes fluid. Hidden in the space between your breaths exists a 0.3-second window where the very fabric of your experience can be rewired. Those time-slowing moments were not coincidences. They were glimpses of accessing the space between thoughts, between heartbeats, between the inhale and the exhale. You touched something timeless, beyond the ordinary flow of temporal experience. Right now, take a breath. But this time, pay attention not just to the inhalation and exhalation, but to what occurs between them. There is a brief yet profound instant where everything pauses. Your lungs are full, but you are not yet exhaling. Then another pause at the completion of the exhale before the next inhalation begins. Most people rush past these moments, treating them as empty spaces to hurry through. They are actually sacred gateways. The ancient Egyptian initiates understood this secret intimately. In the mystery schools along the Nile, they learned to enter these gaps with full consciousness. They called it resting in the silence of Ra, the space where the sun god paused between his creation breaths. These were not just poetic metaphors. The initiates discovered that in this space the normal rules of cause and effect become malleable. They could plant seeds of intention that would sprout into physical reality. Modern quantum physics validates what these ancient mystics knew experientially. In the space between one quantum state and another, what physicists call superposition, infinite possibilities exist simultaneously. It is only when observation collapses the wave function that one specific reality emerges. Your consciousness resting in the gap between breaths functions as that observer. You are not just witnessing reality, you are participating in its creation. Think of music for a moment. Without the silence between the notes, there would be no rhythm, no beauty, only chaotic noise. The spaces between sounds create the very structure that makes melody possible. Your breath creates this same sacred rhythm in existence. Each gap between breaths is like the silence between musical notes, giving shape and meaning to the symphony of your life. But here is what makes this quantum gap truly extraordinary. When you learn to rest there consciously, your mental commentary disappears. That constant stream of "I should do this, I must have that, I need to fix this" becomes quiet, not through force or suppression, but through natural settling. In this silence, something remarkable happens. Pure intention crystallizes, not your ego's desperate wanting, not the frantic desires born from fear and inadequacy, but your soul's clear knowing. In this gap, your deepest desires stop being mere wishes and become instructions to the quantum field. The difference is profound. A wish carries the energy of lack. I want this because I don't have it. An instruction carries the energy of certainty. This is what emerges through me. The field responds to these completely differently. Ancient mystics described this quantum gap as creation's womb itself. Just as a child develops in the dark, quiet space of the mother's womb, your dreams and intentions require this sacred darkness to take form. They called it the eye of the needle, that impossibly narrow opening through which infinite possibilities must pass to become reality. You cannot force your way through this opening with mental effort or emotional intensity. You can only rest there, present and aware. Most people live their entire lives rushing past these moments. They breathe rapidly and shallowly, their minds churning constantly, always focused on the next thing, the next breath, the next thought. They are like someone trying to thread a needle while running. The very effort defeats the purpose. The gap requires stillness, presence. a willingness to be comfortable in the space between what was and what will be. This is not about breath retention or forcing your breathing into unnatural patterns. Those techniques can actually take you away from the natural rhythm where real power lives. This is about learning presence with your being's organic rhythm, touching the place where intention meets infinite possibility. When you begin to work with the quantum gap consciously, you will notice something fascinating. The observer consciousness you cultivated in the previous practices, that witness awareness that watches thoughts without being consumed by them, naturally settles into these spaces between breaths. It is as if the observer has been waiting for you to discover its true home. In this gap, time does not just slow down. It becomes vertical rather than horizontal. Instead of moving from the past to the future, you drop into the eternal present, where all possibilities exist simultaneously. Here, healing does not take time. It happens instantaneously. Insights do not develop gradually. They arrive complete. Solutions do not emerge through thinking. They simply appear fully formed. The Egyptian initiates spent years learning to extend their conscious awareness in these gaps, not by holding their breath, but by deepening their presence. They discovered that reality is far more responsive than we have been taught. In the space between breaths, between thoughts, between heartbeats, the universe is listening with complete attention to what you truly are, not what you think you should be. Start practicing this today. Set aside just 5 minutes to breathe naturally while paying attention to the gaps. Do not try to control or extend them. Simply notice that they exist. Rest your awareness in these spaces like settling into a comfortable chair. As you do this, you will begin to sense the profound stillness that exists at the heart of all movement. The silence that gives birth to all sound, the emptiness that contains all form. This is where your true power as a conscious creator lives. Not in the drama of thoughts and emotions, but in the quantum gap where intention becomes reality. The great temples of antiquity were not built as monuments to the human ego. They were constructed as precise instruments for consciousness transformation. From the perfectly aligned chambers of the Great Pyramid to the soaring vaults of Gothic cathedrals, these sacred spaces understood something we have forgotten. Architecture can literally alter human awareness. But here is what the ancient Egyptian temple builders knew that we have lost. You do not need to travel to sacred sites because you already live in one. Your body is the most sophisticated temple ever created, complete with energy chambers, consciousness corridors, and divine circuitry. The difference is that most people spend their entire lives as tourists in their own temple, never learning to actually inhabit it. This is where everything you discovered about the observer and that 0.3-second reality portal becomes practical. You have learned to witness your thoughts rather than be imprisoned by them. You have glimpsed that quantum gap where reality becomes malleable. Now it is time to build the inner sanctuary where this transformation actually happens. The ancient Egyptians mapped the human body as a living temple with specific energy centers corresponding to different chambers of consciousness. They understood that breath was the master key, not just to unlock each room, but to reveal the stories, traumas, and patterns stored in the body's cellular library. Every temple has its hidden chambers, and your body temple is no different. As you begin to breathe consciously, really breathe, not just the shallow chest breathing that keeps you in survival mode, you might notice something unsettling. Certain areas of your body feel tight, constricted, or completely inaccessible. Your shoulders might carry what feels like the weight of Atlas himself. Your chest might feel armored, as if someone built walls around your heart after that betrayal you thought you had processed years ago. Your stomach might hold knots of anxiety about futures that have not even happened yet. Your throat might feel restricted, choked with words you never spoke and truths you never dared to voice. These are not just physical sensations, they are biographical. Your body has been your faithful scribe, recording every experience, storing the emotional residue of your entire life in your tissues. That tightness in your chest is not random. It might be holding unprocessed grief from a loss you never fully mourned. Those shoulder knots could be carrying burdens that were never yours to begin with, inherited from parents who taught you that love means sacrifice and responsibility means suffering. Think about it. Every time you swallowed your anger to keep the peace, every time you held your breath during conflict, every time you armored yourself against disappointment, your body was taking notes. It created physical patterns to match your emotional strategies. The beautiful thing is that conscious breathing does not just reveal these patterns. It helps dissolve them. Each conscious breath becomes gentle renovation work on your inner temple. You are not forcing or fighting these stored patterns. You are creating space for them to release naturally. As you breathe into those tight spaces, you are clearing debris, opening blocked pathways, restoring the natural flow of energy that is your birthright. But this clearing process reveals something even more profound. As trapped emotions begin to surface and release, you might find yourself experiencing memories that feel both yours and not yours. Fears about situations you have never encountered, anxieties that seem to belong to someone else entirely. This is not your imagination. It is your DNA speaking. Modern science has discovered what indigenous cultures always knew. Trauma creates specific breathing patterns that get passed down through epigenetic inheritance. Your grandmother's anxiety about scarcity, your grandfather's fear of expressing vulnerability, your great-great-grandmother's terror of speaking her truth. These patterns live in your cellular matrix, influencing how you breathe, how you hold your body, how you navigate the world. This explains why some people have panic attacks about abandonment despite never being abandoned, or why others feel ancestral dread about expressing their authentic voice. The trauma is not theirs personally, but it is living in their system nonetheless, creating breathing patterns and body armoring that limit their reality. Here is the empowering part. Just as these patterns can be inherited, they can be transformed. When you engage in consistent, coherent breathing, the kind that activates your parasympathetic nervous system and creates heart-brain coherence, you are not just healing your own nervous system. You are literally sending healing frequencies backward through time to your ancestors and forward to future generations. You become a healing bridge across time itself. Every pattern you dissolve, every trauma you integrate, every limitation you transcend creates a resonance that ripples through your entire lineage. Your children and their children will not have to carry the same unconscious patterns that have been running your family system for generations. This is why building your sacred inner temple through breath is not just personal development. It is ancestral healing and future creation simultaneously. As you learn to inhabit your body consciously, breathing into every chamber of your inner temple, you are not just changing your own reality. You are changing the reality possibilities for everyone connected to your lineage. The invitation is simple but profound. Begin treating your body as the sacred temple it already is. Start with just 5 minutes of conscious breathing, not trying to fix or change anything, but simply exploring the landscape of your inner sanctuary with curiosity and compassion. Notice what you find there without judgment. Your body has been waiting your entire life for you to come home. Right now, as you are sitting there, you are broadcasting. Not on social media, not through your phone, but through something far more intimate and powerful. Your breath is creating an electromagnetic field that extends 2.5 meters, about 8 feet, in every direction around your body. That means everyone within that 2.5-meter radius is literally bathing in the energetic signature of your internal state, whether you realize it or not. This is not mystical speculation. The HeartMath Institute has spent decades documenting this phenomenon with rigorous scientific measurement. They have shown that your heart generates an electromagnetic field that is 60 times greater in amplitude than your brain's field. And this field changes dramatically based on how you breathe. When your breathing becomes shallow, erratic, or stressed, your electromagnetic signature broadcasts that chaos to everyone around you. When your breathing shifts into coherence, deep, rhythmic, intentional, your field becomes a source of harmony that others can actually sense and entrain to. Think of a still mountain lake. When you are breathing in anxiety or stress, you are like someone frantically splashing in that water, creating waves and ripples that disturb everything around you. But when you settle into coherent breathing, the kind we explored when building your inner temple, you become like that mountain, perfectly reflected on calm water, still grounded, magnetically peaceful. And here is what is remarkable. Other people's nervous systems naturally want to synchronize with that coherence. You have experienced this field effect countless times without realizing what was happening. You walk into a room and immediately feel agitated, even though no one has spoken a word. Or you are around certain people and feel inexplicably calm and centered. You might have attributed this to reading body language or picking up on subtle cues. But what you are actually experiencing is the breath field in action, the constant transmission of internal states through the rhythm and quality of breathing. Children are especially sensitive to these fields because they have not yet learned to override their natural intuition with mental analysis. Watch a stressed parent trying to calm an upset child while their own breathing is shallow and anxious. The child becomes more restless, more clingy without understanding why. But when that same parent takes 3 conscious breaths, truly settles into their center using that 0.3-second gap we discovered, the child often calms down naturally, as if by magic. It is not magic. It is electromagnetic entrainment. I witnessed this firsthand during my years studying with meditation teachers who had developed extraordinary breath coherence. You could feel it the moment you entered their presence, not because of anything they said or did, but because of the quality of their breathing field. Students would arrive scattered and anxious, and within minutes of sitting in that coherent field, their own breathing would naturally deepen, and their minds would settle. The teacher was not doing anything to them. They were simply maintaining such strong breath coherence that others' nervous systems naturally synchronized. This field effect extends to every interaction you have. When you take conscious breaths before a difficult conversation, you are not just calming yourself. You are creating an energetic container that can hold whatever needs to emerge. Instead of 2 people's stress fields amplifying each other into conflict, your coherent field provides a stabilizing influence that makes authentic communication possible. I have watched this transform workplace dynamics. When someone walks into a meeting centered in their breath, they subtly influence the entire atmosphere. Creativity flows easier. Collaboration becomes more natural. People find themselves speaking more honestly, listening more deeply without consciously knowing why. It is the breath field creating a coherent environment where higher possibilities can emerge. But here is where this gets truly fascinating and where cutting-edge physics is revealing something that mystics have known for millennia. Your breath field does not just influence people. It influences the fabric of space-time itself. Researchers like Nassim Haramein are demonstrating the intimate connection between consciousness and space-time at the quantum level. When you breathe with coherence, you are creating what physicists call torsion fields, spiraling patterns of energy that actually influence the structure of reality itself. These fields affect probability distributions, making certain outcomes more likely while making others less likely to manifest. This explains why people who maintain regular meditation practices report increased synchronicities and seemingly miraculous coincidences. It is not that they are luckier. They are literally participating in reality creation at the most fundamental level through the coherence of their breathing field. Each coherent breath is like casting a vote for the kind of reality experience you want to have. Consider what this means for your daily life. Every unconscious breath votes for more unconscious patterns, more reactivity, more stress, more of the same automatic responses that keep you trapped in familiar but limiting experiences. But every coherent breath votes for expanded possibility, for the kind of synchronicities and opportunities that seem to flow naturally toward people who have learned to maintain breath coherence. The implications are staggering. You are not just a passive observer of reality. You are an active participant in its creation through the electromagnetic signature of your breathing. That 2.5-meter, 8-foot field around you is constantly influencing the quantum field of possibilities, drawing certain experiences toward you while repelling others. This is why the ancient Egyptian priests were so precise about breath work. They understood that breath coherence was not just about personal health or spiritual development. It was about learning to consciously participate in the creation of reality itself. When Thoth taught the observer's breath, he was teaching a fundamental technology of consciousness, a way to align your electromagnetic field with the outcomes you truly desire. So here is your invitation. For the next 24 hours, become aware of your breathing field. Notice how your internal state broadcasts through your breath. Feel how others respond when you are breathing chaos versus when you are breathing coherence. Watch how your external circumstances seem to shift when you maintain that observer's breath we have been exploring. You are not just changing your own experience. You are changing the reality field for everyone around you. 2.5 meters in every direction with every single breath. Here is something that will completely flip your understanding of how real power works. We live in a culture that worships the hustle, that tells you more effort equals better results, that keeps you running on this hamster wheel of constant activity. But I am about to share something that the most accomplished people throughout history understood. Something that goes against everything our achievement-obsessed society teaches. The greatest power comes from absolute stillness. I'm not talking about giving up or checking out. I'm talking about the kind of stillness that moves mountains, literally and figuratively. Think about this for a moment. A mountain appears completely motionless, yet it is one of the most powerful forces on Earth. It does not struggle against storms. It allows them to pass. It does not chase sunsets. It simply receives the light. Rivers flow around it. Seasons change upon it. Wildlife lives within its ecosystem. Yet the mountain remains centered in its own presence. This is the kind of stillness that changes reality. You see, we have been programmed to believe that if we are not constantly doing something, we are somehow failing. Check your phone right now. I guarantee you have multiple apps designed to keep you productive, organized, moving toward your next objective. Your calendar is probably packed. Your to-do list never ends. You have been conditioned to equate busyness with worthiness, activity with progress. But here is what they do not tell you. The quantum field that responds to consciousness operates on completely different principles. It does not care about your task list or your 5-year plan. It does not respond to how hard you are trying or how many hours you are working. The field responds to frequency, to coherence, to your state of being. Remember what we discovered about your electromagnetic field extending 2.5 meters, 8 feet around you? That field is not strengthened by frantic activity. It is strengthened by coherent stillness. When you are constantly in motion, constantly striving, constantly pushing, you are broadcasting chaotic signals: desperation, control, struggle. The field picks up on this scattered energy and responds by creating more circumstances that require struggle. But when you learn to access that mountain-like stillness through conscious breathing, something extraordinary happens. Reality begins to rearrange itself around you instead of against you. I have witnessed this countless times. People who learn to cultivate this dynamic stillness suddenly find that opportunities they could never have forced into existence begin appearing naturally. The right person shows up at the exact right moment. Solutions to problems they have been wrestling with for months suddenly become obvious. Doors open that they did not even know existed. This is not magic. It is physics. Think about a hurricane. All around its eye, winds are raging at hundreds of miles per hour. There is destruction, chaos, flying debris. But at the center, there is perfect calm, perfect stillness. And here is the crucial part. That stillness is what organizes the entire storm system. The eye does not create the hurricane by spinning faster or trying harder. It creates it through absolute calm at the center. This is the stillness you can cultivate within yourself. You are not someone who has given up on life. You are someone who has learned to become your own life's organizing principle. When you are breathing consciously, resting in those quantum gaps we have been exploring, fully inhabiting that sacred inner temple you have built, you are not trying to make things happen. You are allowing things to happen through you. You become a clear channel for universal intelligence to express itself in your life. There is a fundamental difference between control and alignment that most people never grasp. Control is when you are trying to manipulate external circumstances to match your internal desires. You are pushing, forcing, making things happen through sheer will. Alignment is when you allow your internal coherence to magnetize external harmony. Control is exhausting because you are fighting against life's natural flow. You are like someone trying to swim upstream in a powerful river using tremendous energy just to stay in place. Alignment is effortless because you are cooperating with the current while maintaining your direction. I learned this lesson the hard way years ago when I was completely burned out from trying to force outcomes in my life. I was working 18-hour days, networking constantly, pushing every angle I could think of. And the harder I pushed, the more resistance I encountered. It was like the universe was pushing back with equal force. Then I discovered what happens when you breathe into stillness. Not the stillness of exhaustion or surrender, but the dynamic stillness of a master who understands how energy actually works. Within weeks, things that I had been struggling to create for months began manifesting effortlessly. The connections I needed appeared. Resources became available. Clarity emerged where there had been confusion. The ancient traditions understood this. They called it Wu Wei, effortless action. The Taoists knew that the most powerful leaders govern through stillness, not force. They understood that water, which appears soft and yielding, can carve through solid rock over time because it does not fight. It flows. Your breath is your access point to this power. Every time you consciously breathe into stillness, you are tuning your electromagnetic field to a frequency of trust rather than struggle, receptivity rather than force, alignment rather than control. You are broadcasting a clear signal to the quantum field. I am centered, I am coherent, I am ready to receive, and the field responds to clarity. When you are no longer emanating scattered frequencies of desperation and anxiety, when you are resting in that mountain-like presence, circumstances begin to organize themselves around your coherent state. This does not mean you become passive or stop taking action. Mountains are incredibly active. They are constantly creating weather patterns, supporting ecosystems, influencing everything around them. but they do it from a place of centered power, not frantic effort. Start practicing this today. Find moments throughout your day to breathe into absolute stillness. Not the collapse of exhaustion, but the dynamic stillness of someone who knows their own power. Feel yourself becoming the organizing principle of your own reality. The calm center around which your life can reorganize itself into something far more beautiful than anything you could have forced into existence. The most profound changes happen not when you are pushing harder, but when you finally learn to be still enough to let them emerge. Here's the thing about accessing infinite possibility. You have been conditioned to believe it requires some mystical achievement or years of spiritual practice. But what if I told you that every single breath you take is already connecting you to what quantum physicists call the zero-point field and ancient Vedic masters called Turiya? Most people live trapped between three states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. But there is a fourth state that exists beyond all three. Turiya in Sanskrit, it literally means the fourth. This is not some esoteric concept reserved for enlightened masters. It is the ground of being that underlies every moment of your existence, whether you are aware of it or not. Think about those moments when time seemed to stop. Maybe you were watching a sunset, holding your newborn child, or experiencing a creative breakthrough. In those instances, you were not thinking about the past or planning for the future. You were suspended in pure presence. That is a glimpse of Turiya, the zero-point field where all possibilities exist simultaneously. Modern physics has caught up with ancient wisdom in fascinating ways. Quantum field theory describes a fundamental energy field underlying all of reality, the zero-point field. Even in the vacuum of space, this field contains infinite potential energy. Every particle, every wave, every manifestation emerges from this field of pure possibility. And here is what most people miss. Your consciousness is not separate from this field. You are this field, experiencing itself through the lens of your unique perspective. When you master the observer's breath we have been exploring, something extraordinary happens. You begin to access Turiya not as a temporary peak experience, but as your natural state. In this fourth state of consciousness, the rigid laws of physics become more like gentle suggestions. Time becomes fluid. Minutes can feel like hours, or hours like minutes. Space becomes malleable. You might feel simultaneously as vast as the cosmos and as intimate as your own heartbeat. But here is where most spiritual seekers get trapped. They try to use this state to manifest what their ego thinks it needs. They approach the zero-point field like a cosmic vending machine. Insert meditation, receive desired outcome. This is what I call ego manifestation, using consciousness as a tool to get what you think you want. Soul manifestation works completely differently. Instead of trying to impose your will onto reality, you become so still, so present, so aligned with the zero-point field that the highest possibility can emerge through you. Sometimes this looks exactly like what you thought you wanted. But often it appears as something your limited perspective never could have imagined, something that serves your evolution in ways your ego could not comprehend. I learned this distinction the hard way. Years ago, I was desperately trying to manifest a specific career outcome. I meditated, visualized, affirmed, all the techniques. Nothing happened the way I expected. Instead, a completely different opportunity emerged that initially looked like a detour from my plans. Only later did I realize this detour led to discoveries and growth that my original goal never could have provided. The ego creates from limitation and scarcity. It says, I need this specific thing to be happy, secure, or fulfilled. The soul creates from infinite abundance and possibility. It says, I am already whole, and from this wholeness let the highest good emerge. When you breathe from the zero-point field of Turiya, you are not trying to control outcomes. You are opening to what wants to emerge through your unique expression of consciousness. You become what the Taoists called a sage, someone whose actions arise spontaneously from perfect alignment with existence's natural flow. This requires a fundamental shift in identity. Most people see themselves as separate beings trying to connect with the universe. But the deepest truth is this: you are the universe experiencing itself as you. Every breath you have ever taken has been the cosmos breathing itself through your lungs. Every thought has been infinite intelligence exploring itself through your neural networks. Every emotion has been love expressing itself in countless forms through your heart. When this recognition moves from an intellectual concept to a lived reality, everything changes. You stop trying to make life work for you and start allowing life to work through you. You stop seeing yourself as a wave trying to reach the ocean and recognize yourself as the ocean expressing itself as a wave. This does not make you passive or detached. Actually, it makes you incredibly responsive and engaged. But now your engagement comes from love rather than need, from wholeness rather than seeking, from service rather than self-interest. Remember that electromagnetic field extending 2.5 meters, 8 feet around your body that we discussed? When you are operating from Turiya, from the zero-point field, that field becomes coherent in ways that influence reality itself. You become a walking invitation for the highest possibilities to manifest. Not just for yourself, but for everyone whose field intersects with yours. The most profound realization is this: you do not need to become anything or achieve anything to access this zero-point field. You already are it. You have always been it. The conscious breathing, the observer awareness, the quantum gaps between thoughts. These are not practices to create something new. They are practices to remember something eternal. Right now, as you read these words, infinite possibility is available to you. Not tomorrow, not after you meditate for 10 years, not when you finally get your life together. Right now. The next breath you take can be a conscious return to Turiya, to the zero-point field where your highest reality is already waiting to unfold. Take a moment to breathe consciously right now. Feel yourself settling into the space between the inhale and exhale, resting in that quantum gap where infinite possibility lives. This is your natural state. This is who you have always been. You know what is fascinating right now? As you perceive these words, you are participating in something far more significant than personal transformation. You are part of an evolutionary moment that indigenous wisdom keepers have been preparing for across generations. This is not hyperbole. It is observable reality. When you choose conscious breathing over unconscious reactivity, you are not just changing your internal state. You are contributing to what scientists call a phase transition in human consciousness itself. Think about how water suddenly becomes steam at a precise temperature, or how a flock of birds instantaneously shifts direction as one organism. We are witnessing this same phenomenon in human awareness right now. The Hopi called this the Great Purification, a time when humanity would remember its connection to the living earth. The Mayan calendar pointed to this era as the end of one cosmic cycle and the beginning of another. Hindu texts describe the transition from Kali Yuga, the age of darkness, to Satya Yuga, the age of truth. These were not predictions about external catastrophes. They were descriptions of consciousness awakening to its true nature. What makes this moment unprecedented is that the shift is not happening through force or dramatic external events. It is occurring through what I call the quiet revolution. Individual consciousness remembering what it actually is. Every person who learns to breathe consciously becomes a seed of the new paradigm. You become what I term a reality anchor. This is not a mystical concept. It is a measurable phenomenon. When you maintain coherence between your heart, mind, and breath, you generate a field state that others can feel. You do not need to teach anyone or convince anyone of anything. Your presence becomes a silent invitation for others to remember their own infinite nature. I have watched this happen countless times. Someone learns these breathing techniques, begins practicing regularly, and suddenly people around them start asking, "What's different about you?" Their coherent field state acts like a tuning fork, helping others remember frequencies they had forgotten they could access. This is how consciousness actually evolves, not through argument or persuasion, but through the magnetic power of authentic embodiment. When you share these concepts, you create energetic ripples that expand collective awareness while simultaneously reinforcing your own embodiment of these principles. Consider making this practice part of your daily rhythm. Over time, something beautiful develops, a reciprocal breathing where life starts breathing you back. The boundaries between your personal breath and life's breath begin to dissolve. You realize that every inhale is life giving itself to you, and every exhale is you giving yourself back to life. This reciprocal breathing becomes a constant prayer, a continuous communion with existence's creative force. In this state, something remarkable happens. Synchronicities multiply exponentially. The right people appear at perfect moments. Opportunities align in ways that seem impossible. Solutions emerge from nowhere. Resources flow effortlessly. This is not because you are manipulating reality. It is because you have stopped interfering with reality's natural tendency to support consciousness in its highest expression. What once seemed miraculous becomes simply what happens when consciousness operates from its natural, coherent state. Healing becomes natural. Abundance feels effortless. Love flows unconditionally. Peace becomes unshakable. Not because you have achieved these states through effort, but because you have stopped blocking them. The critical mass effect we are witnessing on our planet is extraordinary. As more people awaken to their true nature as conscious creators, the collective field reaches tipping points where entire systems shift into new organizational patterns. Your individual practice participates in this larger evolutionary moment. You are not just healing yourself. You are participating in healing human consciousness itself. Every moment you choose awareness over unconsciousness, every breath you take consciously rather than automatically, contributes to our species' collective awakening. Think about the implications. We are living through the transition where consciousness is being recognized as the universe's primary creative force. Not matter creating consciousness, but consciousness creating the experience of matter. This understanding is spreading through quantum physics, neuroscience, and direct human experience simultaneously. Your role as a reality anchor becomes crucial during this transition. You help stabilize higher possibility frequencies in the collective reality. Your coherent presence reminds others of possibilities they may have forgotten existed. You become living proof that transformation is not only possible but natural. The ripple effects extend far beyond what you can see. Someone you interact with has a slightly different day because of your presence. They make different choices which affects their family, their work, their community. These ripples intersect with other ripples from other awakening individuals, creating interference patterns that amplify coherence throughout the collective field. This is how we birth a new paradigm, not through revolution or resistance, but through evolution and embodiment. Each person who remembers their true nature adds to the critical mass. Each conscious breath contributes to the phase transition. You are part of something magnificent. Every time you return to conscious breathing, you are voting for the world you want to live in. You are anchoring the frequency of possibility. You are helping humanity remember what we actually are beneath all the conditioning and forgetting. The time of individual spiritual seeking is evolving into collective conscious creation. Your personal practice becomes planetary service. Your inner transformation becomes outer transformation. Your conscious breathing becomes part of the breath that is transforming our world.